All right, I think we're about ready here. So everybody ready? All right, then let's get this party started. Now try not to blow your eardrums out. Do it. The
following is a presentation of Tuning into Sci-Fi TV, the viewer's guide to genre television.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kevin Batchelder.
And I'm Bonnie Ferrar. And we are live from Las Vegas!
ClexaCon 2019. And nothing like being here with a room full of Earpers and so many Earpers here at the con. We can't tell you how much we appreciate you all coming out. Goodness now, how many years we've been doing this now, as far as live shows go?
Oh, live? I heard that first one was at ClexaCon.
Wasn't it? Yeah, in first year of ClexaCon. Wow. So
yeah.
It's, for those of you that listen to our podcast, which by a show of hands earlier was almost everyone, we get to have a lot of fun recording when we do them, but we just sit in our homes, separate parts of the country, by ourselves, in our fancy recording studios.
Yeah. My recording studio, the first year was literally the closet because it's the only way the kids could leave me alone. And it was like a double wall I could close my bedroom door and then I could close the closet door, and there were two layers to keep the kids out. Now I just have learned that there's a mute button. And so I mute them, and literally I'm putting them to bed most of the time while we're doing podcasts, and I'm multitasking. And every once in a while Kevin's like, "Are you still there?" And I'm like, "Yes, sir, hold on 1 second." So this is way better, way better.
Yeah, nothing like the energy of having everybody here in the room. I mean, for me, it was a spare bedroom in the house, so I've got the computer and the setup in, and it's one of those rooms that is the catch-all for everything. Furniture we're not using anymore, boxes of clothes, winter jackets when it's summertime and such. And at one point when I was, my wife kind of just supports me wonderfully, but she's not really into the podcasts or any genre shows or anything like that. Anytime I get excited and talk about a wonderful thing that happens, she just nods and puts her hand on my shoulder and goes, "That's nice, hon. When do you make money doing this?" But she did try to offer help at one point, like I say, setting up that spare bedroom, because she was like, "Well, if you want more room, I could take a lot of this stuff out." I go, "No, this is wonderful. This absorbs all the echoey sound. It's like I actually planned it this way." So make do with what we've got. I'm curious, before we start talking about some topics, by a show of hands, how many of you were at the meetup yesterday? Okay, only a few, so we can cover a few things we covered there. Also, out of curiosity, how many are new or newer to the fandom? Maybe in less than a year you've been involved? Oh, good one too. Welcome. Very cool. So we figure we should, go to the elephant in the room right off the bat as far as the fight for Wynonna, to make sure we're all on the same page. Is there anyone in the room that did not see the tweet that IDW put out on Thursday? A couple of you. Well, they finally, kind of broke their long silence a little bit and gave us a semi-fuzzy warm message, to their credit, that they are, trying to work on this and find a solution. They are very aware of it. They appreciate all the support, and that they'll let us know when they have more information to share. So it was nice to see them break the silence and to know that they are working on a solution. So it doesn't mean we stop what we're doing. We're all, myself and Bonnie and Bridget, are keeping our fingers on the pulse of what's happening, and if we come to a point where we think things are not going in the direction that we want, or they're not doing what they appear to be, trust us, we will get loud and noisy very fast.
They said yesterday we have spreadsheets, and spreadsheets for those spreadsheets, so we've got a lot of ideas, yeah. But today, we can, if you catch us after the show, and we can talk about the nuts and bolts. We've done some podcasts about the actual fight. A lot of you know there were billboards, and some people in this room were actually on billboards. But it's just an incredible thing. But what we wanted to talk about first was why we fight, because I think that's really the most important a part of this whole puzzle. Wynonna Earp is a show but there's a lot of shows on TV. That's not why we fight. I mean, it's part of the reason. We fight for lots of reasons, and one of the biggest reasons, you can look around this room, is the family that we've created just in this fandom and through the show, and the cast. And it starts at the top with Emily and her writing team and the cast, and it trickles down through the rest of this entire fandom. So we wanted to talk a little bit about some of the reasons why we continue to fight so passionately for Wynonna.
Yeah, and it's difficult, we know, for many of you. Certainly we seem to be tweeting into a void now with what's going on. You don't get instant response, we don't get instant things happening, and it's very important to realize that while none of us want to be in this position, we certainly are. And now is the best time to, as we say, look within. Look at the amazing group of people that we have in this fandom. From the folks, officially involved in the show to all of us as well. No one else will use that door to leave, will they? But it's very important that we realize we're all here, and we've got a lot of hashtags that we use within the fandom. Now is the time to be staying active, but also to be spending time with this amazing family. We talk about, on all the podcasts, how life-changing it is to get a chance to spend time with Earpers. Those of you that are here in this room know it from firsthand. A lot of you at home that are listening, it's not the most inexpensive thing to try to go to a con, but you can try to meet up with other Earpers in your area. And we, Bonnie and I, and Bridget as well, and other Earpers are always trying to talk up meetups. So if you're looking to gather with other fans in your area, we've got a blog post at WynonnaFans.com listing, I don't know how many are on there, 30 or 50 of them, different groups, regional ones. And we're adding more. If you've got one and you're trying to do something, let us know. We will talk it up. We want you to get a chance to meet some other Earpers to realize, what it is that we've been talking about for years.
Yeah. So we have, Earper meetups are a big part of what this fandom has kind of organically grown to do. But we have two hashtags that we like to use a lot on social media. Earper Greet, which is kind of like, hey, I'm looking for some Earpers, anybody want to talk, and then you guys can kind of figure out, find your, the group within the group that really you identify with. But the other hashtag that's really important is Earper Support. And I wanted to share a story about Earper Support. So Kevin has me doing time hop now to look at things that we've tweeted and things that we've looked at pictures, and it's kind of funny. But today in my hotel room this morning, I opened up time hop, and 1 year ago today, I put out a social media post on Facebook of all of last year's ClexaCon pictures with all my family and Pocket Fam and everybody here. And I hashtagged it ClexaCon, and I knew what I was doing. But I have a very conservative, I'm going to shake a little bit, but a very conservative Midwest homophobic family. And I kind of knew what I was doing. I was very closeted and didn't want to be anymore. And 2 days after this post that I posted today, my parents pulled support for me because of all of this stuff. So it was a very dark time for me. I was devastated. And my girlfriend said, you talk a lot about Earper support. Why don't you put it out there on Twitter? Why don't you? And I said, but I'm supposed to be the support. I'm not supposed to do. She said, nobody does this alone. You reach out. And so I did. I did a tweet, and I just said, guys, this thing happened, and I'm kind of gutted. I might not be able to go to cons anymore because I'm a single mom. So when my parents won't watch my kids, that was a very big deal. So within 24 hours, I got over 500 comments, about 100 DMs. It was shared thousands of times. And I went from feeling alone in this tiny Midwest community that I didn't feel like I was a part of, to feeling like I had an army, like an actual army behind me of love and support. And that gave me the courage. And in the last year, I've come out to my whole family. I've realized that 90% of them are not homophobic and are really pretty great. And the 10% that are still working on it. And, I'm out now. I'm happy. I'm who I am, and I could not have done that without Earper support. And to bring it full circle, tonight my mom is watching the kids, so it's all those people out there, and I tried to say thank you to everybody on Twitter, but it was impossible. But for everybody who DM'd me, I'm saying it now, thank you. Everybody who hugged me and they saw me at conventions, everybody who tweeted to me or liked my tweet, it made me feel not alone. And so if you're out there, no matter what your day is like, Earper support is a real thing. Like, it's a giant thing. And that is one of the biggest reasons we continue to fight for Wynonna Earp, for this fandom, for this community, for this show. So that was my story. Anyway.
And that's just one story. The wonderful thing for us is we get to see a lot of those play out. I try very hard to retweet Earper support tweets, but it's not just Bonnie and I and Bridget or a handful of people that are covering this, it's all of us. So it's wonderful when you all jump in and checking those hashtags, greeting the Earper greets for the new folks that are coming in, helping out the folks who are having a bad day with Earper support. This is what makes us who we are.
Yeah. By the time we see it, I got you. By the time we see it, sometimes I'll open up Twitter and I'm like, oh, and I'll go to retweet it, and I'll realize that there's already 50 replies. So I'm retweeting it like, sorry, I'm going to blow it up even more. But but it's really an amazing thing to realize that it's everybody's baby. Do you know what I mean? This show, this fandom, this community, it's everyone's baby. And the fact that everybody takes like responsibility for that, for cultivating it, for having Earper meetups in their hometowns, for throwing conventions, to coming all the way, sometimes across the world to go to conventions, to just sitting in your basement and like combing the hashtag and saying, I got you, literally, like, it's okay, I've been there, or, what do you need? People have opened up their homes for people. People have driven people to places that they needed to go, picked them up from an airport when they've gotten stranded. Like, people they didn't even know. Just, you're an Earper, that's good enough. I don't think this is common.
No.
Kevin keeps telling me it's not common. So...
Yeah, and then the reason we're kind of going laser focused on it is because seeing those wonderful things, is awesome, but also we get to see some of the folks that start to get discouraged, especially during the fight, and wondering if what they're doing matters, and wanting to still put their heart into Wynonna and everything. So it's important that we realize now more than ever is the time to be leaning on and also reaching out to the Earper family for whatever comes up to be able to do it. It's what makes us even stronger. We will win this fight, period. Do not doubt that in any way, shape, or form. Give yourselves a lot of credit. I mean, when things first broke about the problem, and in no time at all we were a trending topic on Twitter, that's because of each and every one of you. Everyone here in this room, everyone listening to the sound of my voice, wherever you were, your tweets made a difference there. Once we started getting the articles written up in the different publications and online, again, you retweeting those and getting that information out, that's why the press wanted to cover it. And then when the billboards started, okay, that wasn't like an initiative that Bonnie and I or any of us said, what are we going to do today? That was one Earper with an idea. Mm-hmm. One person.
But it took more than that one person.
Right.
She tweeted out, I did this thing. I bought a billboard in the middle of Times Square. Can anyone go out and possibly take a picture? And it was an army, and I keep referring to that because we are powerful. We are so powerful as a group, as a fandom, and the group of New York Earpers that went out there and stood in the freezing cold to take a picture and video of this. Was it 30-second billboard?
Yeah, I think it was.
30-second billboard. And that was like literally a movement. We have had over 100 billboards. And not one time did anybody say, guys, go buy billboards. Like, we didn't do that. I like kind of like wish that was like our brainchild, but like, I was like, oh, such a great idea. But like but no, we were never like, I got this great idea, let's do billboards. It was literally like one Earper with an idea and everyone went, yes, we're here to support you, but it would have never been a thing if no one was there to see it, if no one could film it, if no one brought it back to Twitter. And it sort of ignited, and we've had articles in lots of publications about it. It's gotten lots of attention. It's truly a community, and that's one of the.
That's the thing. I mean, the person who had an idea, the wonderful folks in New York City were documenting it. The rest of us were talking it up. It got more press to look at that. We got to do more interviews. It kept the pressure, if you will, on IDW, and kept the show in the lexicon of what's being discussed. And some folks, who aren't aware or have experience with some of the, the TV landscape in terms of how these things work, keep in mind what that did is that put the focus on IDW. There's now other people in the entertainment industry who are like, oh, look what's happening there. I wonder how they're going to deal with it. Okay, so that works in our favor as far as keeping that presence there. Let's face it, they're a business. They're a publicly held company that sells stock. They need to do things that'll help their investors get a return on their investment and so forth. And they have other TV properties they're trying to create and so forth. So there's a lot at stake here, more than just Earp. But we certainly are right now at that pinpoint front of that in terms of what's going to happen. So the reason I go into that is, again, we've kind of got to the point in the fight where it's a little boring and a little discouraging, but things are happening behind the scenes, even if we're not getting notices every day or two with what's going on. So don't lose track of that. Don't lose sight of it. And certainly don't, lose the positivity, the polite no chill that has made us what we are.
And another reason we fight obviously has to do with why a lot of people are here at ClexaCon, is that our voices need to be heard. And we deserve these kinds of stories and the representation on TV that we see in Wynonna Earp. Not only the positive LGBTQ representation, but the diversity, the female lead, things like that. I fight for the show for so many reasons, and I'm sure you have your own reasons for fighting, but we know how easy it is to cancel a show and how many shows that we've loved that have gone by the wayside, that we're trying to do it right, that we're trying to be that different voice, to show a different story, to tell some of our stories. And it's and we fight so that Wynonna Earp isn't one of those shows, and I fight because I don't want my kids to have to fight to see themselves on TV anymore. I just don't. There's a lot of TV out there, but Emily said it during the first, and I can't quote her because of my memory, but the first ClexaCon, she was like, you have a story to tell, get out there and tell it. And that's what she's doing, and I will fight to the death for her to be able to tell her stories. So,
and that's what all of us want to see happen. So, it's hard for me not when we start talking about this show and the fandom and all the people involved in it, just how special it is. And even when you get caught up in your day-to-day lives with a lot of things that are very important, family and work, we joke, Bonnie, Bridget, and I, about whether or not we really have jobs beyond Wynonna.
We do. We do.
But we really do. But it's because of the support of everybody else in the fandom. We're just trying to help steer everybody to keep us all together. But it is all of us, and it is very important. Every voice matters. And I get a lot of messages. We do get a lot of messages from folks wondering that. So I think it's important just to state it, certainly on the podcast and here now, to realize that it's the cumulative effort of everybody involved, and making that happen. And even aside from some of those bigger picture items, I mean, let's face it, getting a chance to meet and talk with folks like Kat and Dom and Emily, I mean, how special is that? How lucky are we to be able to get to do that?
Yeah. Okay, because I have on the podcast, I always have to talk about like a Disney show or something. If you've ever noticed this, has anybody seen Horton Hears a Who? Yeah. Okay. I often think of the fight for Wynonna, like the very end, like, okay, and like IDW is the kangaroo, and they're walking with the thing, and they're gonna, and we're like all the little Who's like, we are here, we are here, we are here, right? And okay. hear. And then it's that one, the littlest who, like JoJo, the kind of like, badass who's like, finally like, and he like loses his mind. And then all of a sudden they hear it and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Yes, you're here. You have a voice. You deserve to stay. And so it's not just because my daughter was in Seussical that I thought of that. Could have also been, but I was like, oh, this is like really similar to what's happening with Wynonna. So yeah, but it's every voice. That was my point. It's every voice, even the littlest voice, even when you feel like. And there are days, Bridget and Kevin can tell. I'll DM them and I'm like, I'm so sorry, guys. Like I haven't been on Twitter all day. And they're like, never and he tells me this, like, he must have it like on copy and paste now. He's like, never apologize for being who you are, for doing your stuff. You got 5 kids, like, and I'm like, okay, yeah, thank you, Kevin, thank you. Because, we all have a life, and it's okay. Somebody once told me, after the election, I was really like down, and you just get exhausted sometimes fighting so hard and like everything, and there's the phone, and it's a lot. And someone said, if you're singing in a chorus with a bunch of people, you can't all sing at the same time. Because if everybody sang at the same time, then when you had to take a breath, which everyone does or we would die, there would be silence. And so you don't do that. You stagger your singing so that when you can take a breath, I'm still singing. And when you need to take a breath, I'm still singing. And, so it's okay to take a breath. We've got you. That's the thing about this family and this fandom, is that it's okay to take a breath and come back and sing a little louder tomorrow. And then when I need to take a break, I feel good knowing that you guys have my back and you're on there hashtagging and trending and doing things like, I'm going to shout out Doc Stash with Grabby Mel because, oh my God. Doc Stash makes me laugh on a regular basis, you guys. That Grabby Mel thing is hilarious. So yeah, I mean, it's okay. And however you fight, whether you Photoshop Melanie grabbing people, whether you do you, is what I'm saying. However you fight, you fight, and know that tomorrow someone else is fighting louder if you need to take a break.
And I'm going to have trouble with this, but it's important that I say it.
Okay, I'll let you.
Okay. At one point early in the fight, when things were really looking like, oh my goodness, what's going on? What can we do? How can we do it? We had an important conference call. Bonnie and Bridget and I and some other unnamed folks. That was really important to talk about some things and get some information. Both of these amazing women that I'm talking about were out of their houses doing things to take care of their families, taking their kids to events or picking up whatever. They're sitting in their car on a break. They're driving down the highway, hitting mute every 3 seconds to take care of the family and everything else, and still talking about what we needed to do in the fight for Wynonna. Okay? So that's commitment. That's what we're all doing, which is the best that we can, whatever that might be. But that's commitment, folks, when I talk about stuff. And Bonnie likes to say she may not do enough sometimes, or Bridget, but it's whatever it takes to get the job done. That's what we're doing. So just realize that and be comfortable with being yourself and who you are, and we will all prevail in what we're doing. Mm-hmm. But it's important. There's very, as one of the older Earpers, there are very few times in your life when you realize you're in the middle of something very, very special. It may not have been something you created, but you get to be a part of that, and you get to pay it forward. And that's what we're all doing with this fandom and with this show, and what it creates, the characters and the creators have given us. So, yeah, there's 500 other scripted TV shows out there, and some of them certainly are very good shows and have very good people involved. I'm not trying to put any of them down. But this is something that is incredibly special. So live it to the fullest, do the best you can, and just don't ever wonder where it's going to go from there. Because none of us ever know if we're even going to have tomorrow. So, again, getting the old guy beating the horse. Do what you can, enjoy it, and as I said at Earper-palooza, when someone asked about what might happen in the future with the show, just enjoy every fucking minute of it, okay?
I know, he said the F word. You guys, it's all right. We're on vacation, it's okay.
But we got a little emotional, certainly me. But these live podcasts are a lot of fun because we get to interact with you. So if you folks have questions or topics or things you'd like to,
There's another mic. Is it on? Is it on?
be involved, please feel free to put up a hand or let us know, because we want to make this very much a session that you enjoy. Since you took your time at the con to come and see us, we want to make sure you get a lot out of it as well.
Sure. Oh, you can talk to Bridget. You should definitely ask a question.
Who's your favorite Wynonna Earp writer?
Noel Carbone.
When y'all saw how it ended in the last season, not knowing that y'all would get another season, what was the reaction?
Oh.
What was the reaction?
Where the fuck is everybody? No, I mean, like, where is everybody? Seriously, why is Nedley the only one there? But also, awesome Nedley.
Emily talks, if you listen to any interviews and things, she talks about, what does she say, her writing her future self into a corner or whatever by, what a great idea, I'll figure it out later. And that's why we cannot wait to see what this is going to be. I was telling Bonnie, if you might have seen it on Twitter this morning, Doc Stash being her amazing self, when I tweeted that the live podcast was coming up, she asked if she could phone in with questions. So I turned it around a little bit to say, no, but if anybody wants to DM me and let me know, maybe we can answer some questions. And I got a couple of tweets that were just like that. Where's Nicole? What's Wynonna going to do? What about Waverly? So, I mean, it's on everybody's mind. And here we still are several months later wondering. I wish I had answers. I don't know. That's why I love this show. It goes in so many directions. There's no way I could ever anticipate what it's going to be.
Well, and we've tried. If you've listened to the podcast and we suck,
how many times we've been
wrong? We're not good at it. I thought Jolene was a good guy. So, I'm going to just say that again because that is my darkest moment on the podcast. I was like, maybe she's good, but that's just because I like Zoe Palmer and I wanted her to be cool, all right? But also, we keep trying to guess Emily, and really, you got a better chance at guessing the winning numbers of the mega ball, because every time I think, I'm like, okay, this is how it's gonna go. It never goes that way. It's literally oh, that's a puppy. No, it's not. It's a giant man-eating raccoon disguised as a puppy that also might happen to be a Valkyrie. I don't know. It's very I can't. It's so she's got such an incredible imagination. We could sit here literally and do a podcast, and it's the future Earpers who are because I think about that sometimes. People are gonna find the show in 5 years, and then they're gonna come and listen to the podcast, and they're what, idiots? Really? Because they binged it, the whole thing, and then they found the podcast, and they're they knew nothing. What were they talking about? So I mean, I'm excited to see, when we get a season 4. I'm excited to see some of the direction that Emily goes in. But my biggest question was, where did everybody go? Also,
or when
do we
did
have
they go?
Peacemaker as a gun again? Are we going, full Game of Thrones swords? What are we doing? So there were so many questions, but at the end of every finale, I think if you look back at the end of every season finale, there's at least 20 questions. I'm still waiting for some answers from the first finale. So I'm so I'm not looking over there for a reason. I'm just, but it's that's part of what we love about it, right? Is I can't wait to see what she does next, what the whole writing team does next. So.
I mean, for those of you that were fans and were watching it when season 1 initially aired, as you know, we had several weeks where we didn't know if the show was going to get renewed. And we had the season 1 finale and the whole thing with Waverly shooting what we thought at Wynonna at that point in time. Do you remember for those around then, all the discussions then of, it's got to be this, why would she shoot her? She'd be doing this, she'd be doing that. Did anyone have any idea what it was going to turn out to be?
No.
No.
And then season 2 starts and they're running through the woods and I'm like, I thought she shot everybody. What happened?
And here's the funny part for Bridget and Bonnie and I, and for those of you who might be press, you get the episodes a little early, so we're very excited to watch it. So watch that finale and start it, and they're running through the woods, and I'm DMing these two going, did my copy miss the first few minutes? What's going on here?
I don't understand.
I didn't know what was happening.
Yeah.
So.
Also, I was very, very wrong about the goo. There are so many, wrong things that I've thought. So
Yep.
many.
Yep, and we got them all recorded. You can find them there if you have. Yep, we get to be wrong publicly. But that's part of the fun. So, long answer, I don't know if we got any idea on what this is going to be. We just can't wait to see what it's going to be when we finally get that chance.
Don't be shy.
Docstash would like to know, do you like Tim with or without the hat?
Oh, that's a good one. I just like Tim. Like, there is not a better guy, except for you, out there. No, I mean, yeah, no, with and both. Always both.
But how funny was it early in season 2 every time he went to tip the hat and it wasn't there? I mean, that was a great...
But that's the thing. Okay, Earpers were kind of like, try to explain this fandom. I dare you. Because first of all, I'm cracking up laughing at the grabby Mel thing, right? And in the picture that I was looking at, Melanie's grabbing the Golden Girls. and my sister was there, and I went to be like, oh my God. No, it's not. I mean, so there's that. But with the hat thing, it's so season 1. You guys might remember in season 1, a certain Kat Burrell. I don't know if you guys know who. But, yeah, she. There was an episode where she's in the hospital after she gets. We didn't know what happened to her, and all of a sudden she's in the hospital, and Twitter exploded. Not because she was okay, because her hair was down. Her hair was down. Alert! I mean, like literally. And the same thing, like episode 1, I was like, oh my God, Doc Locke's hat. What happened to his hat? And then the whole thing, this hat. So apparently we're like really obsessed with like hair and things that on. And I mean, look at ClexaCon, like Dominique cut her hair and it's adorable, but it literally blew up Twitter. Everybody's like, she cut her hair. But it's like, how short is it? What is going on? So yeah.
Yeah, that's the other DMs I got when I asked for questions this morning. Can you ask Dom why she cut her hair?
Yes.
So yes, it's our obsessive nature.
We call it no chill.
Yeah.
You might have heard of it.
And again, talking about the people, and I think I've mentioned this maybe before in terms of their excitement and just how amazing Tim is. But for those who don't know, when we had him on for his first interview back in season 1, we were talking, and this was before they had announced the cast was going to come to San Diego Comic-Con. We were only, 6, 7 episodes in maybe at that point? Mm-hmm. And I knew Tim was a big comic book guy, so one of my series of questions was ask about comic books and conventions. So when I brought up that idea about him enjoying conventions, and then he announced that the cast was coming to San Diego Comic-Con, he was he's like so excited, and then there's a long pause, and I don't know if I should have told you that. So, I mean, I had to DM Emily and go, is it okay if Tim breaks this news? So, I mean, the excitement of who these people are and how genuine. That's the perfect stories of how they are with us. And all of the stuff that they've done. And Melanie at the first San Diego Comic-Con, when we had an Earper meetup out behind the convention center shortly after, she took the time to come over to that meetup, which was wonderful of her to do. She could have come for 5 minutes, waved and said hello. No, she took the time, because I watched this, folks, to literally go up to every single Earper there, reach out and shake their hand and say, hi, I'm Melanie, to introduce herself to everyone.
Okay, but it gets even better because she was on her way to some like very swanky EW
event.
party or some big event. So she had her big dress on and her like Keds or like cons, like, and she was just floating around. Like she looked like a little fairy princess, just floating around, and and everybody just stood like in a circle and like gave her space and but it was unreal because she didn't have to do that. She didn't really have time, but she was there.
Yeah, and that's the giving of the time, as you folks have heard from the 30+ interviews we've been able to do. That's because these folks are so giving of their time for us. A lot of times these interviews folks will give, especially to a fan podcast, is 10 or 15 minutes. As you know from the interviews you've got 30, 45, 90 minutes. We get Dom on, we got to make a way longer.
And we just sit there and we're like, no, keep going. No, go make some more tea. It's fine. We're good.
Yeah, and it's amazing that they're so willing to share that much with us. That is another part of the uniqueness of this that we really need to appreciate.
And they're so funny because they keep telling us, they keep going, I'm so sorry, I'm just gabbing on. We're like, no. Like, keep going.
Go.
Yeah, no, nobody wants to hear this.
Yeah, Cat's the same way too.
Yeah.
Should I? Yes, you should. Keep going, whatever you want to bring up.
Yeah.
So it's made for us for a pretty amazing experience doing the podcasts and for all of you. So it's also important that you folks, when you mention that on social media, because they really appreciate hearing that. Kat and Dom and other cast members have told us how much they appreciate that you tell them that when you do meet them at conventions. So it just reinforces how much it allows them to connect with us.
So, quick show of hands. Did anyone try to explain to their family why they were celebrating Christmas in August this year? Yep. Did that go over? No, right? They're like, why are you busting out your Christmas sweater? And I'm like, and now my family, now my family's like, oh, it must be like a Wynonna thing. And I'm like, yeah. But, yeah, no, I mean, that's the thing, right? There were so many episodes this season that I thought were just incredible. The Christmas episode, obviously the Jolene episode was a really powerful episode for a lot of fans. I think in terms of TV, it was a very powerful episode as well. God, there were just so many great episodes this season alone that
Gnome wife.
what?
Gnome, yeah.
Gnome, yes. I gave her a microphone. Yes. What? Summer gave her the talk. He's like, no, yeah, I mean, we all love the drunk Nicole scenes, right? And they are so incredible. And the gnome wife, that was great. You be Tessa, I'll be Scott, or you be Scott, I'll be Tessa. I can't remember how it goes. Like all those, the show, Jan Arden guest starring, and I still try to use that picture of her on the floor with the cat on her butt on a regular basis as a response to everything in life basically but there's just this, you can't just describe this show and this fandom to anybody else. I think it's really difficult. We've tried to do our elevator pitch for the show. It's really difficult. Oh, you should watch Wynonna Earp. Oh, what is it? You're like, oh.
Got to see it to believe it. And in the same way with family stuff, and my family, at least now has a somewhat of an idea, my daughters and my wife, of, my passion for this show. I don't know if many of you saw the photo that Earper Ash made some tiny little menstrual angels. And she gave one to me, so I brought it home. And when it came time to put up the Christmas tree, I took it out. And my wife looked at it and go, you want to put a tampon on our Christmas tree. But you love me, right, hon? So, yes, those things are, I waited until my daughters came in and looked around the tree. There's this one from when I was a kid and that one that they made and thing, and then there's the menstrual angel. Dad, Wynonna Earp. Okay.
Someone made, I can't remember who, but made Emily candles. They're vigil candles, and they have St. Andrews candles. And so in my closet, I have this, this other dresser in my closet, and I've got all my, a lot of my con stuff on there that, I can't explain to most people. So, my kids will walk in my closet and they're like, who's the saint on the candle? And I'm like, well, because we're Catholic, so. And they're like, I didn't see her in our saint book. And I'm like, well, yes, she's added later. That was a later addition.
That's book 2.
That's fun. Yeah. But no, there's a lot of fun stuff that we do in this fandom. So, but yeah,
That's what's fun. I love showing the murder tree photo ops.
Murder trees.
Okay, I mean, the way Earpers take anything and everything, the potato. And as I said yesterday at the meetup, trust me, if we need to get more aggressive with IDW, we have a potato vendor so we can all mail potatoes.
May or may not have contacted the potato company.
Yeah. So we can go in lots of directions if we need to.
You know how you have the red button that the president presses? We have a potato button, and it's any minute now.
If we have to, don't tempt us.
No.
Other questions, topics, folks? We could ramble for a while, but
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, if anyone.
So I left the Earper meetup yesterday to go see Amber Benson, and I brought up about how there's like different parallels and that sort of thing, and she actually said that we were lucky that we have such a thoughtful showrunner, and that she thought it was amazing how giving she is to us, and I thought that was really cool of her.
Yes. Yes, it is. And this is why I say sometimes I think we lose, or at least I do a little bit, we lose sight of just that amazement of how Emily and everybody else is that's associated with the show, to be interacting and so thoughtful with all of us. I mean, it doesn't happen this way, folks. For those of you that are younger, and maybe this is your first fandom, wow, good luck matching this at any point in the rest of your life. But yeah, that's a great example of it.
So I'm new to TV, believe it or not, because I was like pregnant for a decade. So like I basically like, and so I had my head down. It was like Teletubbies. So they were not watching. We didn't watch that. But like basically, I started to pull my head up and I started watching TV. And one of the first shows that I found was Lost Girl. And Michelle Lovretta, a shout out to her. And they. And that's how I found Emily. That's how I found Kevin. That's how I found all of you guys. Like, it's just been this crazy ride. In all honesty, that's how I started to find myself. But it is, I'm kind of spoiled, I think, because of I follow Emily and her writers and watch Canadian TV. And there's been some things, and I'm not going to go into them, that have happened in the last several months on TV. And I'm constantly like, what? Like, how does this happen? It's 2019. How did this really? Are we still here? And I'm constantly, and I was just talking to my girlfriend, and I was like, how is this? And she said, I think it's just I've been so used to Emily and the way that I've seen stuff on TV that it makes me realize how, because I didn't realize, I guess, how rare it was, this entire thing. I mean, even the podcast, how rare the stuff that we get to do. Kevin always tells me, this is my first podcast. This is my first real fandom, and Kevin keeps telling me this is not normal. Like, fan podcasts don't get casts on them, and I'm like, oh, really? And we don't get to do these kinds of things, but yet we do, and we're here. And so I do think that Emily is amazing, obviously, and I think that I get spoiled, and I think sometimes when I watch other shows, I'm kind of slapped back to reality, and it's a bit painful sometimes. So.
But the great thing, I don't know if you folks have heard me say it before, the reason that I first got to interact with Bonnie online was because she created a wonderful video. If you haven't seen it, I'm going to put her on the spot. A Thank You Lost Girl song when it was near the end of Lost Girl. A really nice fan vid.
Because I have a lot of chill, guys.
Okay.
So much chill.
And a song she wrote and she performed. Okay, it was, and I was, and still am, a big Lost Girl fan, and I came across it and saw it, followed her on Twitter, a couple of tweets back and forth, nothing big. Just another fan that I appreciated the passion of, but taking that risk of putting yourself out there and doing something like that, that's how I became aware of her. That's how, less than a year later, I just, by random chance, ended up in line next to her for a Lost Girl photo op.
It was 3 weeks later.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah, see that
I have
quickly?
no chill.
Yeah.
Like, literally, I saw Lost Girl, it was end of the party. Like, basically, there was season 5, it was going away. And I'm like, I'm here. And everybody was like, all right, pack it up, guys. And I was like, ah, damn it, I missed it again, And so I wrote this song, and yeah, it was basically like, I'm just going to put myself out there. I had basically had 10 tweets. I didn't even know how to tweet. I put this song out there, and I was like, I hope you guys like this, and I'm going to go crawl in a hole now. And then I decided to go to DragonCon by myself none of this is me, like really. But I was like, I'm gonna go to Dragon Con because the whole cast was at Dragon Con, and I was like, oh, that'll be fun. I'll get to meet them, and then I can be done with this fandom thing. I got that out of my system, right? And then I can go back to momming. And yeah, I met him because I was, as you do, in full bow cosplay. So yeah, you go big or you go home, right? And then this whole thing started. So
Yeah, I mean, that was a chance encounter. That was her very first Dragon Con, just getting into fandom. I've been going
First
to Dragon
con
Con.
ever.
First con. I've been going to Dragon Con at that point for like 12 years or more. I've never bought a professional photo op. I just didn't have the budget for them. But Lost Girl was very important. Kenzie and Bo, that friendship was very important. So that was my very first photo op for both of us. And we just happened to be in line to see each other. And 6 months later, Wynonna comes along, and we happen to connect via Twitter from there.
Mm-hmm.
So the things that happen sometimes in life to get you to these wonderful things, you sometimes have to take that scary step, take that first step.
say yes.
Say yes. I mean, when I decided to start the podcast, go back and listen to episode 0. I sound like a blithering idiot to a certain degree. Well, no, in the sense, I didn't have a co-host. This, I'm going to start a podcast. Okay, I don't know anyone who likes this show. This could be a train wreck if it's just me babbling in some direction. So, but I mean, listen to it in the sense it's just me going, this show seems like it's going to be special. Hopefully there's a fandom around it. This might be a lot of fun. I don't have a co-host. I'm warning folks now, and got lucky enough to meet this amazing lady. So it's amazing sometimes the things that happen when you're willing to take a risk, and this show is certainly something that makes it worthwhile. The same way in the fandom, the creativity, as we're talking about, the artists, the podcasters, the vidders, everybody else, those folks inspire us too to see all of that.
Absolutely. But yeah, he said, you want to come on a podcast? And I said, what's a podcast? And he said, well, you just talk. And I'm like, really? I can do that. That's all I got to do. I can talk. How much time do we got to fill? No,
Yeah.
it's been a great ride for sure. Does anybody have any other questions? Wynonna, the podcast. Yeah. Sure.
As a fan, what do you think Wynonna and Alice's reunion will be like?
Ooh. So I've thought about this a lot. Wynonna and Alice. Somebody asked me that the other day on Twitter, I think. What did I think about Wynonna and Alice? Did I think she was going to be a good mom or not? And I think she's going to be an amazing mom, because I think she's going to be the mom she never really had, And this whole journey for her, the entire show is basically about Wynonna getting rid of her demons, and figuratively and emotionally. And I think she's been doing that these last 3 seasons, getting rid of her personal demons and making her peace with her family, whether it's her dad and the things that happened, whether it's her mom being not there for her. I think she's been doing that all along, and I think that's going to result in her being a really incredible mom, actually. And if we are lucky enough to get to see their reunion, he's not gonna make it. Let's go right now. Let's just lay it out there.
Can't deny it. Cannot deny it. Just thinking about it. Other topics or things? Yes. Bridget's running.
What do you think, if we'll get to see it all, what do you think it would be like when Wynonna's mom comes back and is like, okay, Charlie was here. Wait, he's gone? Okay, all right, cool. I missed it.
And Kevin.
I don't know. I mean, those are the kind of scenes, very honestly, that I'm sure the writers are, can just sit there and think of ways to go with that. But I mean, it's all gonna. It's just going to be gold, is all I know, in terms of what they're going to be able to do with it. But I do not know. I mean, when that whole storyline played out, on the one hand, I was like, this is insane. On the other hand, I'm like, no, this is Wynonna-ish. This is definitely how it could go for her. So I don't know. I really don't. That's the one thing, while we can be wrong on the podcast, sometimes I have to admit, I love just watching the hashtag to see the ideas you folks come up with, because it's almost always better than what I come up with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the thing about Wynonna in the genre of television that it is that anything goes, really. Like, people you think are gone, they're not necessarily gone, and people you think might come back may not, really anything's possible. We think we know a lot of things, but he was an angel and now he's gone, but what does that really mean? Is he gone? I don't know. Who knows? So, and if Mama comes back, I'm like, will she? It could just be like something that, it wouldn't surprise me if I would love to get Megan Follows back. So, I want Mama to come back for sure as a fan. because she's amazing. And those scenes with Megan Follows were they're electric, with her and any of the other cast members. They were so fun. So if we're lucky enough to get her back on the cast, it could be something that just sort of gets discussed off scene, that we don't actually get to see it, but that they're all cool with, yeah, that was a rough week. Yeah, that was a bit awkward, remember? Wynonna slept in the barn that week. Oh, good times. So I think it'll, I think I think Wynonna and Waverly, and the thing is that everybody on the show, no one's perfect. It's what I love most. Well, Way Hot's awesome. So I don't know, it's a toss-up. But everybody, nobody's perfect, and I love that about this show. Is even even Wynonna, she makes mistakes a lot, and sometimes there are mistakes as fans that we're like, really? But that's the great part, is that as fans, as people, we all make mistakes too. And I think that Mama Earp's made a lot of mistakes. I think that Wynonna's made a lot of mistakes. Waverly's made some mistakes, and I think as a family, if we get to see them reunited back, I think that they'll get through whatever mistakes they've all made and encountered, and So she spent the last like 20, I don't even know how many years. I keep adding more years to it. However many years she's spent in an insane asylum, I think she's gonna be fine. She's probably just happy to be out and getting a double from Tim Hortons or something now. So Oh, we got lots of questions.
This one's a little more serious and kind of talking about mistakes people make. How do you think the way that Dolls' death was handled within genre tropes and within the fandom, what's our responsibility to our people of color within our fandom?
Go ahead, Bonnie.
Not being a POC, I can only speak for myself, and I think that my responsibility is to listen. If someone in the fandom is hurt about anything that occurs on the show, whether it's brought up, whether it felt like a trope to them, whether they felt like disrepresented, is that a word? Disrepresented? It is now. Or whether they felt like maybe it brought back some trauma for them or whatever. I think my job is to listen and to let them know that it's okay to not be okay with everything that happens. It's a show, and I know that everybody involved in creating the show takes a lot of time and effort to really, to make this amazing show, but that if for some reason, am I answering the question right? Okay, I think we just need to listen and acknowledge that everything can get better, and that we're all trying to always be better, and some things, we just have to listen. That's my answer.
And it's also tough too, because we're looking in the context of the show and the character and the actor. And Hollywood is still a business, and Shamir, Hollywood big time was calling. So, sometimes that steers what can happen within the writing of a show too. Mm-hmm. But obviously it was disappointing to lose him for that reason, aside from loving the character and the actor, that representation part now as well. So,
and being an inclusive fandom, it's
mm-hmm.
kind of...
Yeah, it hits us because we're even more aware of it. So, that was certainly tough. And it still is. We're gonna feel it for a while.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Couple in the back, Bridget.
and Lena sexual. So season 3, there was a litany of great guest stars. If you could see one return and become main cast, who would it be and why?
Kevin. Kevin. No hesitation, Kevin. I mean, they love Zoe Palmer, but also she was Jolene, so no. But yeah, Kevin. Because I just like being able to talk on the podcast about all the things Kevin said and did. It's so fun. It's like, and remember when Kevin did that and Kevin did that? Yeah.
And that in and of itself was an amazing thing to learn about last year at ClexaCon. Still blown away. Question in the back? Love the shirt, by the way.
Oh, thanks. I got it because you posted that link. So this show is amazing at like putting two unlikely pairs together, and it's just beautiful, beautiful magic, and it's great TV. What was your favorite kind of pairing? I mean, obviously way hot, but like maybe like Mercedes and Kate or things like that. Like, what was your kind of favorite odd pairing, and then what would you like to see more of?
Well, you folks know me. I'm going to steer to the Earp sisters, no matter what there is, and you know, break out the tissues if I start talking about it. And warning now, anybody going to Earp Expo when I moderate the Earp sister panel, bring lots of tissues. Yeah, and Emily's mentioned that, and it's wonderful too, to having seen it in some other shows when you don't have a ton of money on budgets. It comes down to the actors and what they bring, and we are so blessed to be able to have any two of them come together and just create some fun stuff. Yeah, I know a lot of folks, myself included, are looking forward to some, hopefully at some point, if it fits the story where we're going, you know, getting Kate and Mercedes to interact get them stuck on a mission somewhere or something. That would just be a lot of fun. So there's so many of them.
Yeah. No, for me, the one I get most excited about seeing is our Wynonna and Nicole scenes. They're just so fun. They're just always so fun and electric and just I love that friendship that's kind of brewing between these two unlikely. They're very different characters, and I really like their friendship and the way that they support each other, even with all of their differences. And they're just some hilarious antics, you know, that kind of. But beyond them, yeah, I got really excited when Danny Kind. Mercedes said, you know, like, okay, well, we're gonna have to talk redecorating then, and because I was like, oh my God, are we gonna get like a Three's Company type of thing, you know, like, oh, maybe like, you know, oh, who else could move in, like, you know, you're like trying to figure out, like, if Rosita comes back, could she move in, and could all three of them be, and this, oh God, that would be great, you know, and I'm like, my mind's just going, but yeah, like, I would love to get really any two, right, but yeah, for me, it's Nicole and Wynonna. They're really hilarious, and I knew he'd say the Earp sisters, so I had to give him that answer. So. Yeah.
So I'm wondering, what is the status on a global live tweet rewatch?
One of the things, and thank you for the perfect timing, the other bullet point I wanted to bring up before we did finish is, as you know, in the last several weeks, we, certainly from the podcast point of view, have been focusing on just, if you will, the business side of our fandom right now, keeping everyone together and working on stuff. But Bonnie and I have been talking about, now that we know it's going to, you know, it's a marathon and not a sprint, we want to get back to doing more fun podcasts and coming up with some topics and speculating about some season 4 things and so forth. So we want to start looking at things that'll keep us all engaged. And certainly when we do a full fandom-wide rewatch and schedule it and maybe do some hangouts and other stuff is when we'd get a lot of fun. Those who are new that don't know, we normally plan to do those a few months before the new season starts. We rewatch the last season and lead into the new one. We don't know when that might be, so as all we can do, we've got our amazing 3 seasons. We'll think of something to do there and start it. So it is something we're talking about. We'll pick a time, we'll pick a date, and we'll start doing some rewatches and just enjoying, again, the amazing content that we already have.
Yeah. Before we're almost out of time, so I will say this. Make sure to get it right. So one of our sponsors of the podcast you may have heard us talk about is Tello Films. And recently, Tello Films got a pretty big thing. We're going to get, apparently, a very queer ladies holiday film called Season of Love that they're working on, and the wonderful Dominique Provost-Chockley is going to be in it, apparently playing guitar and singing, and I'm really here for this because I'm just saying, I'm here for it. So we're just letting you know that if you're a backer of this film, and you can be a backer for as little as $5, so it's not a giant amount. But if you're a backer, you're going to get a special email at some point because Dominique is going to go by the Tello booth sometime tomorrow, and only backers are going to get that information when she's there, and she's going to be signing autographs and taking selfies. So,
Yeah.
In addition to getting the queer holiday film that we all deserve, with Dominique singing and playing guitar and doing all the fun stuff, you can also maybe have a chance to go meet her. So go back. The film, Tello Films, is also amazing. They've been amazing to us.
Yes.
They've been big supporters of Wynonna Earp. So anyway, go do it. So.
Any other questions or anything? Otherwise, we're just about at time. Well, we want to thank you all for coming out today. Again, have a great con. Talk it up. Let us know your thoughts. We'll be looking at some podcasting ideas in the next few months. So certainly we love when we hear from you folks. And
That's right.
Again, thank you so much for coming, everybody.
Thanks, guys.